this computer. We are now being recorded. And if I share the screen, you should now be able to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Right. One of the things I've been banging on about for a few years now, and I want to try and sort of nudge if I can in my new position, is to try and prevent the holy grails that we seem to have in ringing. One is bob doubles and the other one is Cambridge surprise minor. Now, there's nothing wrong in either method as a method, and there's nothing wrong if people want to use them, and there's nothing wrong if people want to learn them. But certainly in the case of Cambridge minor, I do find people tend to make a beeline straight towards it. And I'll just give you two examples of a typical Cambridge minor ringer. Okay, this will help you to understand where I'm coming from. There are the Cambridge surprise minor ringers who, for whatever reason, they manage to pick it up quite quickly. They can pick up methods in general. They study the line. They can walk into a tower. Maybe after a couple of attempts over a few weeks, they've got it and it's there. And they're never any problem. And you say to them, right, do you want to ring the fourth? And they just grab hold and they just get on with it. Okay, that's what I call a proper Cambridge minor ringer. But you get the other sort of Cambridge minor ringer, and I'm not talking about someone who's learning it. I'm talking about someone who claims to be a Cambridge minor ringer, and they've been ringing it for a few years, and they say, oh, I can ring Cambridge minor. Okay, ring the fourth. Oh, well, I don't know my start on the fourth. Or what's my start? Or do I start with a dodge? You can see where this is going straight away. And then, so that once we've got that sorted out, we go into the method and they make a mistake and you say, your fifth place bell. I don't know what fifth place bell is. Well, this is the half lead dodge. I don't know what the half lead dodge is. They are a pain in the backside. But what is worse, if you then feel sorry for them and say, well, I'll tell you what, let's just take a step back. Let's ring something a bit simpler like single Oxford. They think you're talking some foreign language. Oh, well, I can't ring it without us looking at a line. I'm thinking, well, it's simple enough. You know, it's basically Bob Minimus. You know, they have nothing in between plain Bob and Cambridge, and they can't ring Cambridge very well. So again, don't try. And I'm regularly responding to posts on Facebook, on the bell ringing Facebook pages. How do I learn Cambridge minor? And I put the same thing every time. Don't. With a few pointers as to how to get there. So what I've put across here, and this thing I'm trying to make sure that this isn't really how to ring Cambridge, or believe you me, this will be a massive help to you if you're going to, but it's going to give you a few other pointers as well, which I hope you can take on board. I only have presented this once before, and that was to two people, and I can honestly claim it was very effective in a positive way. So here we go. Right, any questions so far? Just get the laser pointer up. Now I've learned how to use that. This is just some introduction, right? You know, there are many methods with the word Cambridge in the title. However, I've never been asked to ring Cambridge, only to discover the requester did not mean Cambridge surprise. So you can take it as read that when Cambridge is talked about at ringing events, it's always Cambridge surprise that they're referring to. Okay. Being able to ring Cambridge is often seen as a holy grail in ringing, whereas in fact it's more of a gateway to a whole new branch of ringing. There is also much confusion between treble bob methods, delight methods, and surprise methods, with some ringers thinking that surprise methods are the hardest ones to learn and ring, but this is actually not the case. I've no idea why, but in general ringing parlance, apart from Kent and Oxford, one doesn't get to hear about other treble bob methods. And as for delight methods, these never ever get mentioned at all. It's a bit of an oddity in ringing, and there are just as many equally difficult treble bob and delight methods out there, but performances of which tend to be the preserve of quarter and peal ringers. Okay. Learning Cambridge isn't something you should move on to simply because you can already ring a specific list of methods, especially if these are rung by just knowing the blue line and very little else. There is a need to understand basic method structure and have an ability to be able to ring some methods via knowledge of an already known method. I'll give you some examples in a minute. Being able to ring touches of spliced would also be useful. So we're talking a bit of foundation work here. Now, these are the sort of methods I'm talking about, and I think you'll agree, I'm sure most of you here would agree, if you look at that, you might not know the methods, but they don't exactly look complicated or difficult. I'm not suggesting that you work through this list exactly. You could pretty much pick your own. You know, we've got single Oxford here and St Clement's, but you could look at double Oxford, double Court, you could look at college. There's a whole variety of stuff. There's a new one came up, we've been ringing, Keith, haven't we? And barking, which is a variation of Little Bob. It's a great fun little method. It's a great fun method, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
So, you know, don't be bound by this. You can, you know, do your own homework and pick the ones you'd like to try. That's the important thing. Okay. And you know, it doesn't have to be the whole lot. You know, three would be a start. But the thing is that once you get on this tack, you get 3 under your belt and think, oh, well, actually, if I then do this, that, and the other, that's a 4th one I can add to the list. And so it goes on, and it starts growing a bit more naturally without you thinking it's a whole new line to learn. Okay. Now, the other thing just worth noting, and this is what I was saying here, if you look at the list, some of the methods there have got an asterisk by them. They are actually the 6th place version of the method to their left. Now, what I mean by that, and here we're getting technical straight away, if you take Little Bob is basically plain Bob minor with a half lead dodge. Okay, now we all know what the lead end is, yeah? Do we all know what the half lead is? Have a guess, Christine.
The
clue is in the word half. Sorry?
When you're halfway through a lead.
You're absolutely right. You'd be surprised how many people can't guess that. I have them every Saturday on here. Come on, where's the half lead? You're absolutely right. And if you could see at that point there, you see the treble making fourths. It's that fourth that causes the half lead dodge in 5/6 at the back. So really all Little Bob is plain Bob minor with a half lead dodge, but it's the treble that makes the place to cause the dodge. Simple as that. Okay. And the seconds place lead end means a bell makes seconds over the treble, thus creating the lead end dodge. Okay. Now, if you look at Crayford, it is exactly the same method, and whole chunks of that are the same as Little Bob. The only difference is that if you look here, if the treble turns you from lead, you just plain hunt. And that's what everybody does at the lead end as the treble is leading. There is no lead end dodge. So you lose that dodge there, you lose that dodge there, and that one, and that one. So it only leaves that dodge and that dodge in the entire playing course. But the thing is, I mean, by all means have a quick glance at the line, but it's worth trying to ring it without looking at a line. Just keep an eye open for the treble. Or having done a half lead dodge, thinking where you would be going down to, think, well, if I've done a half lead dodge there, that's the lead end dodge, so I don't do that. I just plain hunt. These are the sort of little tricks you need to be, it would be good if you could pick up. Okay, likewise with single Oxford and single Court and St Clement's and College Bob. But you can do this with a whole raft of other methods. You've got double Oxford and double Court, to name another 2, and so it goes on.
Phil, can I ask a question, make a point there?
Yeah, sure.
You talk quite fluently about that kind of 6th place dodge. You talk about, I think in your mind, you very easily see where a place is made and therefore what all the other bells make. For me, that's almost complicating it. I can, if I were writing it down,
yeah,
I could work it out. I could see, if all the other lines were shown, I could probably work it out. But probably not even on ringing room, but definitely not in a tower. For me, that's almost another level of complication, because I need to think about my bell, what the treble's doing, and then what everyone else should be doing.
No, you don't need to think about what the treble, that's the whole thing. You don't need to think about what the treble's doing. Let's just say, for example, in a method, you know you're going to come down to a 3/4 down dodge. Okay? And I'm not saying you must be able to do this also. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to offer a bit of conversation here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying it is essential that you do it. But if you're coming down to a 3/4 down dodge, you should know, you jolly well ought to know, when you pull off your hand stroke in that 3rd place. And if you were doing a dodge, you know the backstroke would come down back into 4th place. Well, you don't. You're plain hunting, so you just keep going. So you pull the backstroke into sex place. You don't actually need to see where the treble is to know that. You'll see that the when you pull into sex place, obviously you'll see the treble's in front of you because he's just on the lead.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's if you know the method well enough in the first place, you should jolly well know when you're doing your lead end dodges.
Yeah, I guess my point is, I think for you, being able, knowing and maybe it's quite right for everyone else, but knowing where the place is, wherever it is, whichever position it is, helps to understand the structure of the method. And I can grasp that would be useful, but for me, that as yet in my rigging, that's another layer of complication.
And it's but as I say, I'm always saying about for some of these methods, just it's not so much a case of keep an eye out for the treble; it's just noting when you pass it.
Yeah,
It's a bit like a passenger on a train once. This is the God's honest truth. I got on the train at Birmingham New Street after a St Martin's practice one night and sat opposite a bloke who was reading a book. Okay, this was New Street, 10 o'clock at night. I mean, it was lit up like like the 4th of July. That place is. Anyway, as we pulled out and went into the dark tunnels, this chap just looked over his book at me. He said, "Which station was that?" And I said, "It's Birmingham New Street." He said, "I was meant to be getting off there." Well, how the hell could you miss Birmingham New Street? And I'm a bit the same if you're ringing some of these methods. I don't tend to say watch out for the treble. It's more a case of at least know when you've passed them. That should be blindingly obvious.
Yeah. And it is, and I'm working on that. And I think that's and lots of methods I use that as the signpost. However, then to add another, for me, as I see it, is another layer of complication by understanding where the place is in the method. That for me, I need to clear my mind in order to things to work. That's almost adding fuzziness, complication that isn't helping me, not at this stage. And I don't know if others are the same.
I must sit down and have a good conversation with you because I sometimes do wonder, and I'm not saying this of yourself. I get this with other people. Sometimes they remember. I'm on the one hand, I'm saying you need to know a bit more about some of the methods you ring, but I'm finding sometimes people remembering stuff they just don't need to know.
Yeah.
There's an element of that as well. But certainly, if you're going to ring a method completely, certainly know the line to a degree, or at least, even if you don't know the line, know the start. And know which of the lead end dodges for exactly the reason I was just saying. It's okay if you say, well, I can't watch for the treble lead to know when to plain hunt. Well, no, you shouldn't be doing it that way anyway. You should damn well know when your 3-4 dodges are and just plain hunt instead. In fact, the instruction is don't dodge. And I've done that with people. I've actually rung this stuff and said, right, now don't dodge, and everyone just carries on. If I don't say don't dodge, they all try dodging. So, but valid point. I think in closing as well, you need to remember to say, I didn't walk into a tower and do it just like that. I was fortunate though, at least being on a 2-week ringing holiday, ringing at 6 towers a day. And after about a week of that, you do get it. Yeah, which actually comes back to, this is why I'm also wanting to encourage people to start fixing more of their own things. It's okay trying to learn a principle or something like this and say, well, next time I go to a guild practice or practice night, we'll try it. You get 5 or 10 minutes. Don't think, right, I'm going to fix a tower for an hour and a half next week. I'm going to get a few buddies around and we're going to go and do this. Believe you me, you'll get it. You'll get it. Some focused attention, you would get there. Keith, were you wanting to say something as well?
No,
fine. No, sorry, I saw you waving just as Adam started.
Oh no, I'm drinking my coffee.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Jane.
Hi. I've just got a quick question. Why is it called a 6th place version?
Because if you look at Little Bob here, you understand plain Bob minor, don't you?
Yes.
Right. Plain Bob is a 2nd place method.
Right.
What that means is when you get to the lead end, a bell makes seconds over the treble. And that causes the 3-4 and the 5-6 dodge.
Right.
Okay. But some methods do not have a 2nd place treble. They have a 6th place lead. Sorry, the 2nd place lead end. They have a 6th place lead end. This is if it's minor. And or another way of putting it is if it's on high numbers, you can just say it's a far place lead end, or simply you plain hunt. And there are methods out there with the far place lead end. So And in fact, Crayford is such an example. You see the treble leading there. There's a bell making a place at the back.
Yeah, so
But
sixth
if you were
place.
to see the grid for that, everyone just keeps going.
Yeah. So
And this will come back in the conversation a bit for what you're going to see a bit later on as well.
okay.
But it's so vital. And how's this for a quick question? Those of you who know, what happens at a lead end in Kent? Any offers? Adam's keeping dumb notice with a big grin.
No, I'm thinking I should know because we're only ringing it the other day.
Okay,
In
come on
fact,
then, Adam.
a few of us have been ringing it a few times this week, haven't we?
Okay, so what lead end is Kent?
I can't say what lead end it is, but I think you're playing Hunty at the lead end, aren't you?
You do. It's a six, but you'd be surprised how many people say, well, you dodge, don't you? Because they just look at all the dodges in the method and think, well, it must be a second place lead end, which it's not. It's a plain hunt lead end is Kent. And there's plenty, Bristol there's plenty of other methods that are. So anyway, I hope I've put across the point about this. It's not a strict stick waving, you need to learn this lot. Go and choose your own methods you'd like to try. But if you can, again, just set up a workshop one night and bat off a couple of them. And then maybe try them in spliced as well. Okay, something like, if three simple splice methods. Plain bob and little bob are two obvious starters. And chuck in A, N, others. St. Clement's is often quite a popular one. It's not a method I'd particularly go for. I find single Oxford more fun. But, just something else to try. Okay. A bit of general theory. Now this is where the audience participation really kicks in. How many rows in a lead of plain minor? And you should be like that. Deathly
12.
silence.
12.
12. Who said 12? Yes.
Remembered it from last thought.
Someone's going to say there's actually 13 there because, of course, I've got the last row of the previous lead and 2 at the bottom, but the actual lead end itself is 12 rows from there to there. Okay. How many leads in a plain course of plain minor?
60.
How many leads?
Oh, 5.
5. Okay. Yes, Linda.
Each bell has to lead once in the course, they call.
No, they don't actually. Sort of. Did you say every bell has to lead once in a plain course?
Yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah. There is actually one point, actually, and I will clarify this now, actually. I started by asking how many rows in a lead of plain minor. That's actually usually the case, but can anyone think of an exception?
Oh, some of the your Bastos and your
Basto, yeah. Little Bob.
Little Bob, yeah.
It's only got 8 rows. And how's this for another question? How many rows in the lead end of Little Bob Maximus?
The same as Little Bob Minor.
It is. People forget that. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Little Bob on any number, there's 8 rows in the lead end, which also makes it quite easy. Okay. We're going to get harder now. A bit of general theory, part 2. How many rows in a lead of treble bob minor?
12.
4.
Wrong. Sorry, how many, Keith?
24.
There you are, 24.
Oh,
That's a lot of rows.
yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
And, and before you start studying that line, that is not Cambridge, by the way, so don't be fooled. That is not Cambridge. Actually, Jane, if you look at the bottom of that block, can you see the lead end?
Yeah.
Is that a 2nd place lead end or a 6th place lead end?
It's a 6th place lead end.
Well done, correct, it is. Okay. How many leads in a plain course of surprise minor? Somebody throw a number up. Guess.
5, isn't it?
There you go. So you can see the same basic rules apply. You've got a hunt bell in the treble, so you must have 5 other lead ends. But as you can see, that's quite a lot of extra work involved. And just to give you a quick comparison, that's what a plain course of plain minor looks. The first 1 leader plain minor looks by comparison. Okay, there's a lot there. I thought I'd throw in this little illustration here of double bob. You could include this as one of your repertoire methods if you wanted to, but I've done it more for illustration because this is basically a method called double bob. And as the name implies, it is plain bob doubled up. So whatever you do at a lead end of plain bob, which Jane can now tell me, what happens at a lead end of plain bob, Jane?
You make second place.
Yeah, and dodging 3, 4, 5, 6. Whatever you do at the lead end, you also do at the half lead, but backwards. So if you see there's a bell making fifths under the treble and then back out again. And that creates half lead dodgers in 3, 4 and 1, 2. And you can see the 1, 2 dodgers there. They're quite obviously the half lead. But also that dodge there and that dodge there. It's actually very, very easy to ring a plain course of this. But the main thing I wanted to put across is that this is lead end work and half lead work in its simplest form. Okay, and you need to try and get a handle on the idea of not just knowing lead ends, but knowing half leads if you want to get on with Cambridge. It will help you enormously. It really, really will. And the other thing with this double method, you can flip it top to bottom, left to right, or you can spin it round all you like. It's always going to look the same. And again, another method to which you can do that is Bristol, or double Oxford, or double Court. There's tons of them. When you get the word double in the method, it usually tells you that what you can do. But they don't always have the word double in. Bristol isn't called a double method, it just is one. Okay, any questions so far? I must be doing really, really well here. Now we get into the real nitty gritty of it. That is the first lead of Cambridge Surprise Minor. Okay, which in itself doesn't look too difficult to learn, but the sort of things that you shouldn't have to think about because they should be automatic are not only the dodge that you start with the treble, but the fact that you follow it with a lead. Okay, and I believe I'm right in saying every single surprise minor method starts with lead and seconds. So that far you need to do on autopilot. Remember this, the less you can have, and I'm saying you need to know the method thoroughly, but at the same time you can clear a lot of rubbish out of here as well. It's a bit like you're approaching a set of traffic lights at red. Do you actually have to think, oh, now is that go or stop? I can't remember. It's just automatic, it's getting ingrained into your brain. Okay, and I will just tell a little story of somebody who once fell out with me because they were trying to learn London, and they asked me to stand by them, which I thought, if you're learning London, you shouldn't really have somebody standing by you. And but they missed a dodge with a treble, and I sort of got a bit cross with them for that. But I said to them, yeah, but if you're learning London, you should know that if you meet the treble, you dodge with it. It should be automatic. You shouldn't have to remember that. It should be there. Okay. Even if you got a bit lost, oh, the treble's here, got to dodge with it. So that's that bit out of the way. And if you look at the rest of that work there, it's just simply treble bob. So many people overcomplicate that as thinking, oh, it's dodge lead seconds, dodge lead, dodge. I think that's too much. It's too much. The dodge lead seconds should be the autopilot bit. And there's just the treble bob to bolt in there. Now, straight away, I'm going to ask, what is special about that dodge on the end there?
That's the half lead.
Excellent. Was that you, Helen?
Linda.
No, not.
Oh, it was Linda. Sorry, yes, Linda. Exactly. It's the half lead. Now, thinking about this, when you think about the symmetry in ringing, because what happens in the second half of the lead end is a mirror image of what goes on in the top half of the lead end. With whom are you dodging with there? Think about what you've just done up to that point, and you've now got the half lead dodge. So the person with whom you're dodging there, what are they about to do?
Oh, six.
Say it again.
Six.
Nope.
3, 4 down.
Is it the fifth? It's the mirror image.
They're going to do the mirror image of what's just gone on here.
Hmm.
Again, not essential knowledge, but it helps keep you right. Okay. So that is a half lead dodge, and the person you're going to dodge with is going to do that work, but coming the other way. So it's worth bearing that in mind. So at least at that point, you know where you are. So you're floundering around on the front a bit, you're a bit lost, you're sort of fluffing it a bit here, and then the conductor suddenly says, this is the half lead dodge. Bang, you know straight where you are then. Okay.
Mhm.
Hunt out to the back, do a double dodge and a lie and a single dodge. This will become also a bit more apparent a little bit later on. So get that line into your head, which isn't too difficult, but know where that half lead is. That's important. Now then, just going on a little bit, because I'm not just going to stick to minor on this, it's just to give you a little understanding of how the thing expands a bit as well, which might come in handy later on. When you ring it on major, when you ring it on 8, is that still the half lead dodge?
No. Can't be.
Because
the treble has got further to go.
he's got a bit further to go. So what do you think seconds place bell Cambridge minor might look like? What do you think the second does? What do you think the second does to start with anyway?
What, in Cambridge Major?
Yeah.
Well, it starts the same, then it does a 3-4 dodge on the way up to the back.
You've been looking at that, or you're very, very good.
No, it's right. I know it. I know it.
Yeah. So that's what you have to do, because the treble has that extra dodge to do on the way out to the
Yes.
back. Well, everybody else has to do one too.
Mm.
So there it is. But also notice that once you get to that point, it is then identical.
Mm.
That's the same as that point there. You pass the treble in the same place at the back and do exactly the same again. The only thing is you're still not at the lead end there. So you have to come on and do the same thing again. Okay.
Yeah.
And just for what it's worth, if you take it to Royal, you can see the same thing stretched even further, but you don't need to worry yourself about that. This is more just aside stuff, by the way, but just makes it a bit more interesting for you. Okay. When we go on to sixth place bell, and again, this is a common start for sixth place bell Cambridge on any number. You go straight down to a lead and dodge. And who's going to be working around that with you?
The
The
person who's
two.
doing opposite dodge?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's the seconds place bell, which we looked at on the previous page. They're doing the lead there. Then they're going to make seconds. And then they're going to do the dodge, lead, dodge. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, Cambridge places, this is really worth drumming in. This is Cambridge places here, and these are 3-4 Cambridge places, as in they operate in 3 and thirds and fourth place. You will see them littering Cambridge on all sorts of numbers. The only thing, you never ever get them in 1-2, and you never get them in the farthest place. So if you're ringing Royal, which is on 10, you will only do them in 3-4, 5-6, and 7-8. You don't do them in 9-10. And there's one handy thing with Cambridge places also, is that the middle dodge is always with the treble. That is definitely an anchor point worth remembering. It's always with the treble. Okay? But the other handy thing with Cambridge minor, this isn't true with the other methods, but certainly on minor, is that you've got a dodge at each end. Have a guess where that dodge is.
Half lead?
The half lead.
Mm-hmm.
And the dodge at the other end is
Lead.
the lead end.
End. Mm.
Okay? That happens all the time. So again, if there's a little bit of floundering going on, If you know you're meant to be doing your places, but again, you can't quite find where you are, you might have actually fluffed the dodge with a treble, so you're panicking a bit. But the conductor says, this is the lead end at backstroke, you know where you ought to be. And the same thing can happen at the half lead as well. It's worth bearing in mind, you see, because while that's going on, there's a bell here doing Cambridge places also. So try and get Cambridge places into your head. It's basically 5 dodges with 2 of them, dodges 2 and 4 substituted for places. So it's dodge, places, dodge with a treble, places, dodge. Okay, that's Cambridge places simplified. And that takes us up to thirds place bell. Oh, before I go, can you guess what sixth place bell major looks like?
Extra dodges.
Yep.
Slide 6.
Yeah, the start is exactly the same. But because of the anchor point there, the trebles had to move further out. You've got to take this block of work further out to meet it. And again, if you're ringing the 6 to Cambridge max, you always start with a lead and dodge, and then you go out to the farthest places possible. So on 6 it is only 3-4, but in max it's 9-10. You just treble bob out to 9-10 places. Okay, I'm not going to bother you with the rest after that on high numbers, because that's just off the charts for the moment. Okay, and likewise, if you do the same thing for Royal, you can see it there. Okay, any questions? Thirds place bell, again, this comes up a lot in other methods as well, particularly methods obviously that are Cambridge over the treble. But this is actually straightforward enough in that you go straight out to do a double dodge and a lie. Hey presto, the treble comes to you. So that should be an obvious one. And it's a fifth at the half lead. Now I've spoken obviously so far about the half lead dodgers, and the reason we have the half lead dodgers are because of that bell making fifths in front of the treble. Okay, so then dodge the other way. And this is also quite handy. If you can remember back to seconds place bell, having done all that long front work, if you remember, the bell came out and it did a double dodge and a lie and a single dodge at the back. Yeah, can you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Once you start looking at this in detail, you realize actually, yes, if you're a bit lost, well, you know you can't dodge in 3-4 because you're not doing places. So you have to just keep going, and you pass the treble and you think, well, the bell on the back is going to be thirds place bell. So I need to do 2 dodges with him. That leaves you lying at the back. And as long as you've remembered it's a double lie single, then you think, so the single dodge comes up. And that's the other thing with Cambridge minor. If you're doing a single dodge in 5-6, it has to be the lead end. You don't do them anywhere else. So if you're going up to the back, you see, you might be at this point here thinking, I can't remember, do I do a single dodge or a double dodge? You know, it happens. People are thinking, I can't remember which way around I'm doing it. As soon as you pass the treble, that should tell you, I'm going to meet thirds place bell. So do a double dodge and then the lie, and then the lead end dodge. And you think, that's my 5-6 dodge down. I must be sixth place bell, straight in. And it's all these little pointers which will keep you right. Okay. Now at that point, I'm not going to show you any more of the line for Cambridge, and I have a reason for doing it. You can guess what third place bell major looks like and Royal. It's all very, very straightforward. But that's the whole thing, sort of. Now this is just, again, me and my tips. Everyone has different ideas, and I can move on to some of those as well. But I do find the less you have to ram into here, the easier, certainly in case of my brain cell. So I learn half. I find the 2 halfway points, in this case, seconds place bell, down to halfway through thirds place bell. And if you are fortunate enough to be able to imagine that image, it sometimes helps, literally, if you physically squeeze it up, you can do that. But quite simply, you work, as you're ringing it, you work your way down the line, and when you've got to there, you simply come back up the line. Okay, which is what all these arrows are trying to indicate. I don't write this out all the time, I just know what I'm doing. But this explains it. So if you're seconds place bell, you're coming on down to sixth place bell and to thirds place bell. and then when you get to the bottom, you turn around and you come back up. And that's 4th place bell there, and that's 5th place bell there, and you're back where you started. And
So
I do
still,
find that simplifies things enormously.
Still, if you were going to learn this and learn it, say, a lead at a time or other level, would you go for something like the 3rd place bell, the kind of pivot point, or would you go for like the extremity, like the 2nd place bell?
If I was going to learn it a lead at a time, I wouldn't actually say there was one or the other I would do, because I think if you seem to be getting your head around, right, this is what I want to do, that's what I would like to learn first, then yeah, there's absolutely no harm in that. There's no harm in that at all. You've obviously, I can see where your mind's going with this, and that's good. The fact you're going to just pick a lead, it doesn't really matter which lead. 3rd's a dead easy lead to do. No harm in starting with it. No harm at all. And then and the thing is, of course, I don't want to say the wrong thing. It'll sort of give you a false sense of security because you think, oh, well, this is easy. I'll do the rest of it now. Of course, it's not.
I guess the first time I looked at Cambridge was in St Paul's with Richard Grimmett, and he said, learn the 2nd place bell, and then once you learn that, learn the 5th place bell. So you're doing the kind of pairs.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, you can do that. What you could also do, and this is another trick, this is where it starts getting the fun side of things. You could, for example, learn 5th place bell and splice it with Little Bob. So you ring the 5th, the conductor says go Cambridge. When you get to the lead end, you make 2nd, then he says Little Bob, and then you ring Little Bob, and as you come up to your home dodge, he shouts Bob. And while you're doing your 5-6 dodge and starting to wet yourself, he says Cambridge again. But of course, your 5th place bell, Cambridge again. So that's one way of ringing the lead 3 times on the trot. And again, you can do that for a workshop. Set that up and do that. It all just adds to the fun of learning. But yeah, if you want to do it a lead at a time and say do 5th and then 2nd and so on and so forth, I haven't got a problem with that. And I wouldn't pick a particular lead. Yes, Keith.
Sorry, when I learned it, looking at the whole thing, it was always the front work that looked most daunting to me. So I set off with the 6. I found that quite helpful because it puts off getting to the front work for as long as possible. But that worked well for me.
Yeah, it's as long as you learn the right bits. That's the thing. That's the thing. Don't become like a tower grabber I once bumped into. He knew 8th place bell Bristol Major for a similar reason I was explaining to you, because you can stick a bob at the end and you just ring the same lead 3 times over and it becomes a touch, you see. So 3 leads of Bristol Major is quite popular. And he kept ringing 3, and he kept grabbing hold of these tenors and ringing 3 leads. In fact, he wasn't a very good tenor ringer anyway. But then we went to one town and somebody said, actually, I want to ring a whole course. And of course, he got really shirty because he didn't know the rest of it. What he had it coming, he'd been found out. But no, absolutely no harm in doing that at all. So that's just one suggestion. If you want to learn the whole thing, that's what it looks like. But again, this is a sort of this is more of a mechanical thing. Learning a whole line like that, where you have to scan it, where your eyes have to literally scan up and down the page, is too much. So what you might want to do is compress it so it looks like that. And sometimes people like to see the symmetry in front of them. That's fine. I know people who like to look at the whole line, but again, they still just learn the top half. It's a comfort blanket. So how you actually get that line to sink into your head, I'm just giving you ideas. And but people always do things differently.
I like to cut it up into leads. I print it off, cut it into leads.
Yeah.
And then learn them in whatever order they come in the pile of paper, but know what the lead order is.
Yeah. That's good to hear.
Christine, did you have it printed on playing cards? Am I remembering that right?
No, that wasn't me. It sounds like a good idea, but no, that wasn't me.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm trying to think what slide's coming next, and I can't remember. The grid. This is where it gets interesting. There's a few things you can pick up from this, and again, it's not as though you need to learn the grid, but it's worth referring to. I was saying, for example, about the 3-4 places, Cambridge places. if you look at any point down the middle of that lead end there is always a bell doing 3/4 places. There is never a time when somebody isn't doing 3/4 places. And there's the only dodgers that can be, because of it, the only dodgers are the ones at the lead end and the half lead, and again the lead end at the end. And the only other two dodgers are with the treble in between them. So if you're on the front and you're not quite sure, you've got to come away from the front and you're not quite sure what you're going to be doing, okay? Unless you know you're aiming for 3/4 places. If you can only be dodging in 3/4 if you're going to be doing the places. Now, if you're running off the front, you might be 6th place bell, but you're not sure. Well, if you get into 3/4 and the treble's at the back, you think, yeah, actually, I need to do a dodge in 3/4 and start my places. But any other time, you have to run through, whether you're coming off the back or going to the front. I probably haven't said that very well, but I hope you get the idea. You can't. The sort of thing typically people do is they finish off the front. If you look at this blue line here, 2nd place bell, for example, they finish the dodge there and they forget what they're doing and they think, oh, I think I'll go and do 3/4 places. Well, if you've just done a half lead dodge in 1/2 and the places have to have a half lead dodge or lead end dodge, you can't suddenly go from that to start doing your places. It just doesn't work. You have to carry on through.
Because the treble has further to go until it's either at the end or back at the front. Okay.
Okay. So that's worth bearing that in mind. You know, if you're not part of the places, then don't try and become them. Just carry on going through from front to back. But that's probably just worth looking at occasionally once you've sort of got the line sinking in your head. It just sort of helps clarify a few points. Okay. This is where the fun can really begin. The thing I said at the very, very start, the thing with Cambridge, it's not so much it's a holy grail method in its own right. It's more a gateway to a whole raft of other things you can start doing. And I would almost go so far as to say if you're going to get as far as Cambridge and then not go any further, it's a bit like opening this door to this wonderful room, but you don't actually go in. You've got as far as the door and you've opened the door, you've run Cambridge. But what you can do beyond it is absolutely phenomenal. You just go off into the stratosphere with it. And I've got just a couple of methods here, which just to show you the type of thing you can do. I love the way it does that bouncy. The compressor looks like a spring. Okay, I think there's a couple of people here know what primrose is. Do you know what primrose is, Christine?
Yes, instead of dodging at the lead end, you go through.
It's a far place lead end. Yeah, it's a far place lead end.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we were talking about earlier. Okay, Jane understands that now, don't you?
Yes, Phil.
Excellent. Yes, that's exactly what it is. And being a bit brutal, if you've learnt your Cambridge properly enough and you know your play spells and you know where the lead ends are, not because you're listening for the treble, but because you jolly well know you're doing a lead end dodge, you shouldn't really have too much problem with primrose. Okay, and this was one of the things I learned with one of the workshops I did at St Paul's going back a few years. I decided to have a primrose workshop, how to ring primrose, and we had a tower full of Cambridge ringers. And again, what I found out is that all these Cambridge ringers, they knew the blue line and nothing else. They didn't know where the lead ends were. They could ring the method, but they didn't know whether it was the lead end. So the whole thing fell a bit. But I came away thinking, right, I'm not going to walk into that trap again. Make sure people know the Cambridge next time. But that is a fairly straightforward thing, and it's having, and you know, you'll find primrose quite easy, provided you've learnt your Cambridge sufficiently. You shouldn't really have to sort of work on it, if you know what I mean by that. It shouldn't be, oh, I can have another go, You should pretty much get it straight off, okay, comfortably. So that's one that you can do with it. You can also play up the half leads and things like that, but again, that's just going off a bit. You can also, there's also other methods like Cambridge, which are Beverley and Surfleet. And with Beverley and Surfleet, you can superimpose the Cambridge line on top of it, and the bits that are to the right of the treble, like that section there, are identical and in the same place. So if you put the line for Beverley over this, you'd find you'd only see one line there. There'd be differences here, but you'd see the same line there and there and there. So that you're starting to get the idea of actually ringing a new method, but only needing to learn half of it, because everything above the treble is Cambridge. Bourne I always find quite interesting as well, because there's huge swathes of work where you don't go very far. But again, this work here over the treble is Cambridge. That is absolute straightforward Cambridge. And once you've got Cambridge into your head and rung it enough times, you'll recognise that. You think, all right, dodge the treble, lie, double dodge, come down to, no, that's the lead in, start the 3/4 work. So again, it makes learning Bourne easier. And like Primrose is a far place version of Cambridge, you can then ring Hull, which is a far place version of Bourne. I think you can see where this is going. But this is just what you can do once you've nailed your Cambridge. It's the sort of thing you're not, I doubt you're going to find a local practice night you can do this, but absolutely, set up some workshops and have a go for it.
And Primrose is the same as Cambridge under the treble.
Yes, it's identical.
Okay.
It's pure. It's a playing course of Cambridge is 120 rows. A playing course of Primrose is 115 rows of Cambridge and 5 that aren't. Well, actually, they are. It is actually the same 120 rows. It's just that 24th row in the lead end is from somewhere else in the method, because you've gone the wrong way. So it is in fact identical music, but the lead ends just come up in a different order, which obviously you'll notice there. It starts with 6th place bell and then goes to thirds, and then seconds, and then fourths. Sorry, 6th to 5ths, to thirds, seconds, and fourths. Any questions so far? And if you really want something different, I just thought I'd throw those in, because these are another 2 methods that tend to get mentioned once you've learnt Cambridge. For my own personal sakes, I can only remember the lines. This will surprise you. I can only remember the lines for 3 surprise minor methods, and they are Cambridge, Norwich, and London. And if you can remember those, and Kent and Oxford, I've given up trying to work out how many methods you can ring just knowing those 5 methods. It is vast. And the sort of example is, I'll be on an outing and somebody will say, we're going to ring blah, whatever it is. And I'll say, okay, what is it? And they might say, for example, it's Cambridge with, it's Cambridge below with a far place half lead and 2nd place Norwich over. And you just work it out as you go along. You don't need to fill your head full of lines. If that's your preferred way of doing it and you're capable of doing it relatively easily, and you can bring the method out, you can recall the method fairly quickly when you need it, then fine. But a lot of people can't. I certainly can't, and I'm not going to start trying now. But those are 2 fun methods. Those are 2 fun methods. Keith, I can't remember, did we ring Norwich over Cambridge once?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. We did yesterday, though. We did yesterday. We rang a method called, was it York?
Yes.
We rang York yesterday, which is Cambridge over and London under, which basically means if you're ringing the 2nd, you start by ringing London there. And then when you get to this point here, you ring Cambridge, so you lie, double dodge, and then come down to 3/4 lead end dodge. And you keep switching between Cambridge and London as you're ringing it, depending which side of the treble you're on. And that's also where, Adam, knowing where you pass the treble comes in, as in at least spotting when you're there. You don't have to know beforehand, but at least when you've met the treble, just register, meet the treble, right, change gear from Cambridge to London, or whatever it is. Okay. Now, as far as all the technical stuff, any questions so far?
Not a question, just an observation to show
Yeah.
how stupid I am. I only realised about a year ago that if I was passing a bell on my way up,
Yeah.
that bell was going down.
Yeah.
That never occurred to me before. But of course, if you're passing the treble and you're on your way up, you must be above the treble.
Yeah.
To me, the treble
Yeah.
can't then overtake you until it's
That's
gone
right.
round
Yeah.
again.
Well, and if when you say the bell's going down, it might only be going down one blow. It might
Yes,
be making fourths,
but
and
by
then
that
it'll step
time,
forward to thirds.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But,
Well, I'll tell you what. In a similar vein, and this is something which it never dawned on me for quite a while, and I don't always tend to say this to people, but if I see people struggling with rope sight when they're taking their first faltering steps in a method, this is something which isn't obviously often mentioned. In going from the front to the back, you pass every bell. If you're going in a straight line, you're going to pass them once. And I say that because I often find people trying to pass the bell. I say, well, what are you trying to pass? Oh, I thought to pass. Why? You've passed them once. Just like walking past a queue of people. You know, if you want to pass them again, you've got to go back and start again. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And exactly the same applies with Cambridge. You know, as you go from the front to back, you know, you might be doing your 3-4 places on the way through, but you know, if you think you're at the front and you still haven't passed everybody, you're not at the front.
yes.
But yeah, same rules apply. Anyway, listen, I'm just going to close with a few thoughts. Before tackling Cambridge head on, here are a few suggestions, and I stress suggestions to consider. How well do you know the methods you can already ring? Learn all you can about them. Knowing the blue line is not knowing a method. You might, depending on the method, you may well be able to get away with ringing it quite safely with that. But you always have to think, what happens if I get lost? Okay? How well do you know it? Are you comfortable ringing touches of them? I'm finding, last time I was at Moseley, somebody loused up a bob several times over, and I said, what is it you don't understand about a bob? And do you know what they said to me? Oh, I know what I'm doing at the bob. It's what I do next I'm worried about. Well, again, it's back to you don't know the method. You know, bobs are always the same. You know, you make fourths, that's it. Okay, so are you comfortable ringing touches of the methods you know? Can you manage at least 3 methods in splice? I'm not saying it's a requirement, but you could pick the 3 simplest methods on God's planet. That would be something. Believe you me, it would make a difference. And it's just really a case of this. You've got to be a little bit quick on your feet sometimes. That's what that's doing. If you need to broaden your repertoire, arrange your own focused practice. I've been saying this all the way through, and I'm trying to I'll be mentioning this a lot once we get back in the towers. You know, one practice night is not enough. I feel sorry for tower captains because they get an hour and a half and they've got to give everybody 5 minutes to do something. You're never going to get anywhere doing that, or not very far anyway. There's a real need. I started fixing my own stuff because I learned as a tower with 6 old blokes who ran grants and doubles all the time. And the only way I was going to get anywhere was to actually go and knock on the vicarage door and say, can I have the bells next Thursday night? I'd phone a few people who I know. And actually, to be honest, they would even bring their friends. I'd say, you know, can you bring a few more along? Because I'm trying to learn this, that, and the other. And they'd turn up and, you know, we'd have these special practice. That's how I got on. And I know other people who've done the same thing. So, you know, and make it for you. Don't bring a friend along. Make it for you. If you're fixing it, it's your party. And there's absolutely no shame in phoning me or other experienced ringers and saying, I'm fixing this practice because I want to be able to do this, or I'm learning to do this, whatever it is. People will come and join you. And it's great. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. The last one, it might sound, oh, sorry, not quite there yet. When you feel confident enough to learn Cambridge, this is back on what Adam was asking actually. When you feel confident enough to learn Cambridge, be sure to learn the line by play spells, know where the half lead and the lead end dodgers are, and where the dodgers with the treble are. Okay? That is important. That is important. At least you'll know where you are in the line, even if you're lost. It's better. It's one thing being totally lost. It's another thing. It's not as bad being lost, but at least knowing you're at the half lead. You've got a chance of doing something then. Sorry, it's this next one I was going to mention. If a whole course is a bit daunting, just learn 3 leads, because you can actually ring a playing course can easily be brought round after 3 leads. You can ring 3 leads of Cambridge and then say plain hunt for 2 rows, and it actually comes round. So that's quite nice. But if you do it that way, adding the additional 2 leads later on should not then be too difficult. Okay, this is roughly what Adam was touching on about sort of learning bits at a time. Absolutely no shame in that at all. Nothing wrong at all. And you'll probably learn, you may learn it better as a result of it. That's fine. That's fine. I have, and again, in a similar vein, I have learned 1 lead of a method to ring in appeal. We were ringing, I think it was 10 spliced, it was at Codsall, and there was some weird method they threw in. They rang it several times, but I happened to have the same play spell every time it came round. So the conductor said, if you could just look at this lead, I want you to ring the 6. If you just know that lead of that method, that's the only one you're going to ring. So how to ring peels at 10 splice by cheating. And I've deliberated about this closing sentence, but I hope you'll see where I'm coming from. Finally, if after, the end's coming now, if after having done everything possible, Cambridge is still proving to be a bit of a struggle, there's absolutely no shame in putting it to one side with a view to possibly returning to it another time. Because by having got this far, you will have become a better ringer anyway since first setting out on your quest. So your efforts will not have been a waste of time. You'll still be a better ringer. And I think that's worth taking away. No harm in having goals and aspirations and wanting to go for it. Absolutely. Believe you me, I'd get behind every single one of you if that's what you want to do. But there's a vast number of ringers out there who cannot ring Cambridge and will never be able to. Okay? There is no shame in that at all. And to be honest, if somebody rang me up one day and said, can you ring in a quarter peal of Cambridge minor? I might, particularly, depending where I thought that, I'm sorry to admit this, but I thought, they're just not up to it yet, but okay. But if somebody said, could you come and ring in a quarter peal of multi-spliced plain minor? Believe you me, I'd be out the door like a rocket. Absolutely, because it's, to me personally, I mean, everyone's different. To me personally, spliced plain minor is a lot more fun than ringing Cambridge minor. But we all have our preferences, so I'm not going to say that's true for everybody. It's a terrific, ringing Cambridge is a terrific goal to get if you want to go for it, but do the job properly, please. Yes, Keith?
On your point 6,
Yep.
You can, of course, also just bring 1 lead or 2 leads.
Yes, that's right.
Then go into plain bob or little bob.
Yeah, or any method you like. You can splice it with 2 leads. You can splice it with 2 leads of London if you want.
Yeah, that wasn't really what I was thinking of. Yeah, you can.
Well, hang on. No, sorry, it's the other way around. It's the other way around. You have 2 leads of Cambridge and 1 of London. So, Adam, when you want to stick 2 leads of Cambridge together, in fact, there can be a part you can ring Cambridge, London, Cambridge. So learn a lead of London to stick in the middle. Right. Are there any other general questions at all? Okay. I'm just trying to see where to stop recording, actually. So I'm just going to lose that for a minute. And I'm now going to